Okay.
An igloo might seem like just a fascinating snow structure, but it is a brilliant example of survival technology that has allowed Inuit communities to endure the brutal Arctic climate for centuries. Despite being made entirely of snow, an igloo can maintain an interior temperature of around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the air outside drops to a bone-chilling minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This impressive insulation is no coincidence. It results from generations of architectural knowledge passed down through Inuit traditions. Designed for efficiency, igloos provide warmth, protection, and comfort in one of the planet's most unforgiving landscapes. Whether serving as temporary shelters during hunting expeditions or as seasonal dwellings, they showcase how indigenous expertise has adapted to extreme conditions using only natural resources. The history of the igloo goes back more than 4,000 years, proving that well-designed housing solutions truly stand the test of time. The word igloo comes from the Inuktitut term igloo, which simply means house, making the phrase igloo house a bit redundant. Despite common portrayals in movies, not all Inuit people lived in igloos year-round. No more than all Texans live on ranches. Instead, these structures were primarily used as temporary shelters by hunters, a practice that continues among some modern Inuit. Skilled builders can construct a fully functional igloo in just a few hours, an undeniable advantage when faced with minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit conditions. Enough with the history. Let's get into how you can build an igloo yourself. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just about stacking snow into a dome. The key lies in using a specific type of snow called sintered snow. This special snow forms when wind compresses snow crystals so tightly that they bond at a molecular level, creating a dense, compact material. Forget about soft, fluffy snow. It won't work here. Sintered snow is so firm that pushing a finger into it is nearly impossible, making it the ideal material for cutting solid blocks. Inuit builders have a clever way to locate this perfect snow, using what's known as the stick test. They walk around with a traditional hunting stick, poking snowbanks to gauge resistance. If the stick slides in too easily, the snow is too soft. If it won't budge at all, it's too hard. The goal is to find a spot where the stick meets firm resistance, while still penetrating slightly. This ensures the snow has just the right density for cutting and stacking. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Experienced Inuit builders sometimes test up to 40 different spots before settling on the perfect snow. That might sound excessive, but picking the wrong snow would be like trying to build a brick house with saltine crackers, structurally questionable at best. Once they find the right snowbank, they've essentially struck white gold. Properly sintered snow blocks can actually be stronger than concrete of the same thickness, all thanks to the intricate network of ice crystals locking together under pressure. The science behind this is even more fascinating. When snow is compressed just right, individual snowflakes partially melt and refreeze, forming microscopic ice bridges. This natural bonding process turns soft, fluffy snow into a material that's both lightweight and surprisingly durable, like nature's version of reinforced concrete, but much colder. Now that we've secured the perfect snow, it's time to focus on the tools we'll need to shape it into a sturdy igloo. The right equipment makes all the difference when crafting an Arctic shelter that can withstand extreme temperatures and fierce winds. You don't need a truckload of fancy tools to build an igloo. The Inuit have perfected the craft using just a few essential items. The star of the show is the legendary snow knife, known as a panna in Inuktitut. This isn't some dull butter knife struggling against frozen ice cream. It's a long, wide-bladed tool specifically designed to cut and shape snow blocks with precision. Think of it as a snow sword, perfectly engineered for Arctic construction. While many traditional builders still swear by the pana, some modern igloo makers have switched to carpenter saws. It's like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone. Both work, but one makes things easier. For cutting dense snow blocks, the saw needs to be at least 2 feet long. And no, your garden hedge trimmer won't cut it. Literally. Proper tools mean the difference between a sturdy shelter and an accidental snow pile. Aside from the main cutting tool, a sturdy snow shovel is essential for clearing the site and gathering loose snow. This step isn't just about tidying up. The collected snow plays a crucial role in sealing gaps between blocks, reinforcing the structure. Lastly, a measuring stick, about 2 feet long, is useful for consistency. Traditional Inuit builders often use their forearm as a natural measuring tool, which works surprisingly well, unless your arms are short like a T-Rex. One tool that often catches people off guard is a pair of snow goggles. The Inuit have traditionally made these from caribou antler or wood, featuring narrow slits to see through. They're not just a fashion statement, though they do give off an effortlessly cool vibe, but a crucial defense against snow blindness. The Arctic sun bouncing off the snow is like nature's version of a paparazzi camera flash, and without proper eye protection, you'd be squinting your way through the entire build. Now that we've got our gear sorted, it's time to tackle the foundation, where every great igloo begins. Think of this step like picking a first date spot. If you mess it up, the whole experience goes downhill fast. Inuit builders know this, which is why they spend more time on the foundation than anything else. First, they clear the site down to hard-packed snow, then use a time-tested trick to mark out a perfect circle, because a lopsided igloo is nobody's idea of a cozy shelter. To mark the igloo's foundation, one builder stands at the center holding one end of a rope cut to the desired radius. Another person takes the other end, keeping it taut while walking in a circle, drawing a perfect outline in the snow, like a human compass on nature's own graph paper. With the base set, it's time to cut the snow blocks, and yes, size matters here. Traditional Inuit builders cut blocks about 2 feet long, 1 foot high, and 8 inches thick. These aren't random numbers. They strike the perfect balance between being light enough to lift and strong enough to support the entire structure. Getting these blocks right is crucial. A weak or wobbly block in your foundation is like showing up to a job interview in mismatched socks. It might not seem like a big deal at first, but it will cause trouble later. The first block placement is the most critical step. It must be positioned at a slight inward angle, about 15 degrees. Miss this, and your igloo might end up looking more like a failed snow experiment than a sturdy shelter. To ensure stability, builders cut the bottom of this first block at an angle, allowing it to lock securely in place. Modern engineers call this a positive angle of attack, but the Inuit figured it out long before textbooks existed. This small but essential detail is what makes the entire dome structure strong and self-supporting. Each additional foundation block follows this same inward tilt, forming a complete circle that already starts hinting at the dome shape to come. Once this base layer is complete, it's time for the real fun, building upward. This is where igloo making transforms from construction into an art form. Imagine playing Jenga in reverse, but instead of hoping everything doesn't collapse, you're stacking your way into a cozy, snow-built masterpiece. Each row of blocks spirals upward and inward at just the right angle, gradually forming the classic dome shape we all recognize. The precision behind this design is fascinating. Each block must lean inward about 2 inches more than the one below it. This seemingly simple adjustment creates a perfect upward spiral that would leave even a mathematician impressed. As the walls rise, the blocks progressively shrink in size. But this isn't just for aesthetics. It plays a vital structural role. The larger blocks at the base provide a solid foundation, while the smaller ones at the top reduce weight and pressure, preventing collapse. Think of it as a pyramid scheme, except this one actually works and doesn't involve your cousin convincing you to sell protein shakes. Here's an amazing fact. In a well-built igloo, each block carries just the right amount of weight to slightly compress it, making it even stronger. The pressure on the lower blocks averages around 10 pounds per square inch, enough to reinforce the structure but not so much that it crumbles. Too little pressure and the blocks won't bond properly. Too much and they collapse. It's nature's version of a self-tightening knot, proving that physics and tradition can create something both practical and enduring. Now let's talk about the rookie mistakes that can turn your masterpiece into an embarrassing snow pile. The most common one: failing to keep a consistent inward spiral. If one block leans too far in or out, your igloo will start looking like it had one too many cups of coffee. Another classic blunder is cutting the blocks too thin in an attempt to save time, like trying to build a brick house out of graham crackers. And let's not forget about poor cutting angles. If your blocks don't fit snugly, you're not building an igloo. You're making an unintentional modern art installation. The biggest temptation: rushing the process. It might seem like a good idea when your arms are sore and your toes are frozen, but impatience leads to a surprise skylight you didn't ask for. Slow and steady wins the igloo race. Now we reach the grand final, placing the keystone block, also known as the king block. This little guy is the architectural equivalent of threading a needle while wearing oven mitts. It's the final puzzle piece that transforms your carefully stacked snow into a solid, self-supporting dome. No pressure. Just remember that this block is responsible for keeping several hundred pounds of snow from turning your cozy shelter into a winter disaster. Cutting and positioning the king block is a true test of skill. It needs to be slightly larger than the hole it fills, about half an inch of extra material to ensure a snug fit. But here's the tricky part. The block must be shaped like a truncated pyramid, meaning it's wider at the top than at the bottom. This isn't just for style points. It creates a wedging effect that locks the entire structure in place, kind of like nature's version of a zip tie. Get this part right, and congratulations, you now have an igloo that won't collapse the moment you step inside. The placement process is where things get really interesting. The king block has to be maneuvered through the opening from the outside and then carefully rotated into position. Picture trying to fit a couch through a narrow doorway, except you're working upside down, in freezing temperatures, and your couch is a fragile block of snow that could crack if you sneeze too hard. Even for skilled Inuit builders, placing the king block isn't always a first-try success. In fact, it can take 2 or 3 attempts to get it right. For first-time builders, the odds of nailing it on the first go are about 10%, not exactly encouraging. But hey, that just makes it more satisfying when you finally get it. Once the block is in place, there's always a moment of silence as everyone holds their breath, waiting to see if the structure holds. When it does, that feeling of triumph is hard to beat. You've just completed one of the most brilliant architectural feats known to humankind. Of course, the work isn't over yet. There's still plenty to be done inside, but successfully locking in the king block is cause for celebration. Just don't cheer too loudly. You wouldn't want your victory yell to shake things loose. With the hardest part behind you, it's time to turn your snowy dome into a proper Arctic retreat. The inside of an igloo might start as a hollow space, but with a few finishing touches, it transforms from a simple snow shelter into a cozy winter hideaway. The first essential addition is the cold trap entrance, which might sound like a high-tech security feature, but is actually a brilliant piece of natural engineering. The entrance tunnel is built slightly lower than the igloo floor, creating a cold air sink. Since cold air is heavier than warm air, it collects in this lower section, instead of creeping into the living space. Think of it as a bouncer that only blocks the unwanted chill from crashing your cozy snow party. Another surprising but vital feature is the ventilation hole. Yes, even a snow house needs fresh air. A small opening, about the size of your fist, is carved near the top of the dome, ensuring proper airflow while preventing condensation buildup inside. This isn't a design flaw. It's a life-saving feature. Without proper ventilation, an igloo could quickly turn into a foggy snow sauna. And not the relaxing kind. Trapped moisture would build up, making the air thick and uncomfortable, while a lack of fresh oxygen could be dangerous. That small hole near the top ensures airflow, keeping the interior safe and breathable. Now, here's where things get fascinating. A properly built igloo can be up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the frigid outdoors. If it's minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, the inside can maintain a surprisingly livable 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That might not sound cozy, but after spending hours in Arctic conditions, it feels like stepping into a heated cabin. Body heat is a key factor in this warming process, but the igloo itself plays a clever role. As the temperature inside rises, the inner layer of snow melts slightly, then refreezes, forming a thin sheet of ice. This layer doesn't just keep warmth in, it actually strengthens the entire structure. It's as if the igloo is reinforcing itself using nothing but body heat. Perhaps the most unexpected feature, a small fire can safely burn inside. The Inuit traditionally use seal oil lamps, called kullik, for both heat and light. The dome shape helps distribute warmth evenly, while the insulating snow walls prevent excessive melting. The ventilation hole allows smoke to escape, and the ice layer we mentioned earlier adds extra protection. Just don't get carried away. This isn't the place for a roaring bonfire. The controlled flame keeps the space warm without turning your shelter into an unintentional slushy. The usefulness of igloos extends far beyond just providing warmth against the Arctic cold. For Inuit hunters, these structures are as essential as a Swiss Army knife, offering reliable shelter and functionality during hunting trips that can last for days or even weeks. Igloos aren't just for sleeping. They serve as fully operational hunting bases. Their rapid construction is a huge advantage. Skilled builders can set up a functional igloo in about 2 hours, which is quicker than most people can figure out the instructions for a modern camping tent. This speed allows hunters to move with the changing conditions of the Arctic, ensuring they always have a secure place to rest and strategize. One of the most impressive uses of an igloo is food storage. In the Arctic, where keeping meat fresh is a matter of survival, igloos act as perfect natural refrigerators. Their stable internal temperature remains just below freezing, providing ideal conditions for preserving food. Even more importantly, the thick snow walls serve as a natural defense against polar bears, which are always on the lookout for an easy meal. It's like having a bear-proof freezer that you can build anywhere, anytime. When properly maintained, igloos can last for an entire hunting season. The key word here is maintained. These aren't set-it-and-forget-it shelters. Smart hunters constantly check for cracks and reinforce weak spots with fresh snow. Unlike a typical house that needs a fresh coat of paint now and then, an igloo gets stronger with each layer of added snow, improving both insulation and durability over time. What's even more fascinating is how igloos can be adapted for different needs. A quick overnight shelter might be a simple, single-room dome, while a seasonal hunting base could include extra storage areas or even multiple rooms. Some hunting groups go a step further, creating clusters of igloos, essentially an Arctic hunting lodge with separate spaces for sleeping, food storage, and equipment. Though the design is thousands of years old, igloos prove that sometimes the simplest and oldest solutions remain the most effective. In the unforgiving Arctic, they stand as a testament to human ingenuity, providing shelter, warmth, and security in one of the harshest environments on Earth.